We're going to start bang on time according to Pigeonhole. The countdown has ended. Welcome to the 12 o'clock session here on the Ingo Theatre. And today we've got a really interesting discussion here, chaired by Paul Richardson, talking about have we pivoted back to physical events too quickly? Have we given up too early? And what's the value of online? So over to Paul. If you go to pigeonhole.at, you can submit questions there, and hopefully we'll get a chance to ask these as we go along, but we'll definitely get some in at the end. So off you go. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, whichever side of midday we are. I'd like to first of all introduce my two colleagues on the stage with me today. Immediately on my left is Richard Belcher, who is MD of firstsight.media, who is responsible for a lot of the streaming content and AV going on at the show, and Neil Thompson of the Delegate Wranglers. Both these gentlemen have been involved in the live events industry, in the in-person environment, and also involved in the digital side and how that has manifested itself. But first of all, a little bit of a scene set. I think we all remember the pandemic when the live events industry went into a flat spin, and we all suddenly scrambled around to become virtual event companies to try and run what we had on the internet and in the virtual space. Post-pandemic, everybody suddenly realised that they could go back to the job that they knew and they loved and they were experienced in, back to their comfort zone of in-person events, and we saw quite a lot of migration away from the virtual space. And there's a question to be asked: is did we run away from that too soon? Did we dump it? Have we thrown away some of the value that we created during that? And how do we keep and recover that value for events now, and what benefits are there in having virtual events or hybrid events? So first off, I think probably is on Gents, your definition of what is a virtual event, and what is virtual, what is it now, and how has it changed? Rich, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. So yeah, it's a big old question, isn't it? I think there's an element of virtual in all of our events these days. I think hybrid is a term that we bounce around, but actually if you think about this stage, this show, if you forget that we're streaming it, okay, let's just park that for a second. How did you register? You registered online. How did you, how have you engaged with the app? Well, that's online. So I think, obviously, hand in the air, I'm the video production and streaming guy here, so I'm going to talk about hybrids with that in mind, and spewing out your content as wide and as far as you can, which I actually think virtual is a very good chariot for doing that. But if we think more broadly about virtual, actually there's lots of elements in virtual in all events, I think, these days.
Neil?
Yeah. Hi. Hello, everybody. Well, first of all, what is hybrid? People use the terms, hybrid, online, virtual. What is the difference? I think that is a really difficult thing to define what a hybrid event is. One thing it's not is sticking a camera at the back of the stage, back of the audience, and filming, and just being that. Because I think that all happened, initially when we went into the pandemic and things like that were being done. But I think we've moved on from that now, and I think hybrid event, to me, I would prefer to call it an online event, because I think you have to accommodate different aspects of the event for the different audience. So you've got the audience that are here with us now, for example. It's one experience for you. It's a totally different experience for if you're watching online. I think it's more of an educational only if you're watching online. It's quite hard to get the engagement. I know we're going to talk about that later. But I think the definition of calling something a hybrid event, when really they mean an online event, that's the difficult thing.
And one of the things we've seen recently is Phil Saw, who's the chair of the Close Still group, talking about, started in the late 2022 and in early 2023, posting articles into one of the industry magazines, basically saying the pivot to virtual is dead. And to me, that struck home that this is a man whose career's been steeped in shell schemes, square meterage sales, carpet sales, lighting, and it falls into what was a trad exhibition. And I don't think there's a grasp there for what the potential is, how it is not a like-for-like replacement. There are different elements, and that's something that you touched on just then, Neil, so I'm going to come back to you. What else, or how are the two different? How do you start to bring some of that online benefit?
Yeah, sure. So just to caveat that, some information I'm going to talk about, I actually spoke to some of our partners and some of the people who are on the Delegate Wranglers community, Events Case, Events for all the events Force, and ETL23, who is an agency. They're not a supplier, but they're an agency who do a lot of things for a lot of big clients. They've got huge clients like Google and all kinds. Now, ETL23 tell me that online stuff is thriving for them, because what they've done is took what we learned and what we all first of all, we're all new into this. We're only 2 or 3 years into doing what we're doing now. So what they did was they took everything and all the learnings that we initially all came out and did all these things and did these games things and engagement things, and they took that to the next level now with what they're doing. And they're telling me that a lot of their clients specifically only do online events, and what they do is more like micro events where they'll do them every 2 or 3 months instead of like one big annual conference. And not only will they save the money, but they'll also get people more engaged more regularly. You know, it encourages people from more neurodiverse backgrounds to be able to attend and to take part of these. You know, who might not be comfortable coming to something like this today. So I think it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing it really well and you're investing into pushing the needle a little bit further in that world, it's definitely growing on that side. Other clients are telling me that it's slightly declining. I don't like to use the word declining, but it's the pace is slow. It's still doing it, but it's slow. But I think it all comes down to, can you engage people online? And if you can engage them, you're on to a winner.
I think that's exactly what I was going to say as well. Is the key word is engagement, and I think if you're taking something, I mean, it's the same in person as online, and the merge between them, which people call hybrid, is the thing, right? But it's about how you're engaging. Like, there's actually an argument even in firstsight.media with my marketing team as to what is hybrid and what isn't. You know, pre-pandemic, we were doing a lot of the cameras at the back, push it out, stream it. Great. And they were like, this is hybrid. I'm like, well, okay, sure, it's in person and it's online, but it's not. And I think what Neil's saying as well is it's whether you're engaging with people in both formats, and because there is a very different experience, can you blend those? I mean, if we called them blended events rather than hybrid events, that would kind of be more my definition of it. And so I look, a lot of our clients abandoned the virtual stuff in the interest of blinkered back to seeing people, networking, and a lot of them have started slowly to go, you know what, actually, like one of our customers, for example, they have a regular meeting where they do it offline. And they get maybe 20 people here, 20 people in New Zealand, 20 people in the US, and they all get together. Then they did an event with us in 2021 with 9,000 people turned up virtually for it. They then went straight back, as soon as we unlocked, we went straight back to the in-person stuff with their kind of 200 people. And it took them a while to go, oh yeah, hold on, what about the 8,500 other people? Oh yeah, sorry about that. So I think because they were really engaging online when they did it, they were able to really drive it to a wide audience, and then they forgot about them, and that makes me sad.
So, in terms of marketing parlance, then what we're doing with this is we're increasing the reach of a live event. So, this event here this content is being streamed, it's going out live. there's however many people sitting in this little theatre and auditorium here, but I'd love to see what the orders of magnitude are in terms of the reach for this particular session going out to an online audience. And if people can use the app to then we can get questions. I think as Neil quite rightly pointed out, we're reaching an audience of maybe some people in the neurodivergent market who can't or wouldn't want to come to a very busy sensory overload event like this. They may want to participate, but in their own way. So there is that element of almost social inclusion. We're bringing people into these events. One thing I have heard Neil use this in conversations before, and it's using the virtual to generate FOMO. Now, I am not going to steal your thunder on this one, Neil. Explain to the audience in how you've used the virtual world to develop your own particular brand of FOMO.
Okay, FOMO's a word. If you know me, you know I use this word a lot. I think virtual gives you the ability to show how good your event is, or to get a taste or the highlight of how good your event is or can be. We do a lot of events at the Delegate Wranglers where our members come together, we have parties and all kinds of stuff. And we always start from that ground of let's create FOMO. Because for me, I think content is like brilliant, and I know we've been talking about it already, but online and when you're watching it virtually and here, yeah, you're getting content and you're having a hopefully educational session, but content is king, and as we say, but engagement is queen, because content is for your head and engagement is for your heart, and that's what you remember at an event. You can, and I think it's the hardest thing to, and this is from someone with experience, and I'd love to open this out to anyone in the audience, how you've managed to engage people so that they really, really felt it online. Because I think you can do it, you definitely can do it, but it's difficult, it's more difficult. Whereas all you lucky people here in the audience are going to not only see these educational things and see all the stands, you're going to bump into people, you're going to meet people, you're going to learn something, you're going to have an emotional experience of some sort, good or bad, and so you're going to grow from that as well. Whereas I think it's quite hard to do that engagement piece and that interaction piece with people. But on the flip side, you know, if you're on an online event, you might get the opportunity to ask somebody a question, but you wouldn't dare to sit in the audience here and ask a question. Like, you know, you might not dare to ever ask a question to the great Rich here. But if he's online, you're more likely to go, I've got a question in the chat, I'll put that in. And so you can start this conversation with people. So I think there are a number of issues at play. I'm kind of contradicting myself, but they're like life, it's a contradiction. You know, there's lots of different aspects to this.
Yeah, if I can build on that as well, I think there's two things that are very difficult to do well in the virtual environment. The first one is that networking piece. You know, that bumping into someone when you're trying to go for a coffee and just networking with them. I think that's really difficult. There are lots of platforms that do it. There aren't a lot of platforms that do it really well, in my opinion. Apologies for anyone in the audience that's from a platform. But I think that's really tricky. Then I think the other really difficult thing to get right is completely disappeared from my brain. But it's really good, and it's a really good point.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really valid. Yeah, it was monetizing. There you go, got there. You know, it's not the floor space and the exhibition space and the stand and the dress for it. It's difficult to sell that online, and so you do have to rethink your monetization plan, and it's tricky. So I think they're the two real difficulties with taking something virtual, and why the likes of the great Phil Saw is against it, perhaps, because it's not the playbook that he is familiar with, if I can say that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting. The monetization is my next point in my notebook here, so thank you for reading my mind. Monetization, it would appear to me that data is probably the key asset that you're going to generate from an online audience, that people registering that could potentially become a live person at your next event. But it also allows you the data to be able to market to that person over a period of time. So you're kind of extending the reach of your event, not only geographically, but across time, people you can contact, you can warm your audience up. It does kind of change some of the model in terms of the events industry, which is we have a 3-month promotion to build this up, we do the event, we have a 1-month thank you, wash up and goodbye, on to the next event until next year, when we panic 3 months out that we've got to get an audience into the room. So instead of going through that cycle of panic rush around, you keep that audience boiling, you keep it bubbling, the live content. So I'm going to throw that back out now, I've just stolen people's thunder. Is monetization and data, how would you guys suggest possible ways that people in the audience might use that data, and how do you collect it, how do you use it, what value does it have? Neil, can I come to you first?
What he said.
Nice.
You said it all.
The shortest presentation in history, thank you.
So one of the bits of feedback that I got from Josh at EM23 was that data collection is one of the most important parts of doing a kind of online event. It's so important to get your foot in the door with a potential customer or a client, and you can start that from there. So whereas, of course, you can charge for events, if you're viewing an event with a lot of, amazing speakers or content that they're going to really enjoy, or the delivery of something, that's fine. I think the monetization comes from the start of the relationship that you can do with people. I'm not sure it's the end goal. I'm not sure it's how you close a multi-million-pound deal by sending them a WhatsApp message, but you can at least get your foot in the door to lever it open. But like anything, and like I keep saying the E word, engagement, it takes effort. It takes effort. Engagement takes effort. You can't just say, oh, well, I've got them on a mailing list, I'm just going to send out normal mail shots and that's it. I've ticked the box. No, it takes effort. It takes building up relationships, personal, one-to-one with people. So I would say that's how you can definitely use leverage online events, initially get your foot in the door with people.
Yeah, it's not. I absolutely agree with all of that as well. Aren't we just good agreeing with each other? But it's not as tangible because you can't get a pound for every bit of data you've got. Well, you probably can, but it's questionable. So it's not as easy to see it and visualize it in this way. If the main thing that you can get is data, unless you are selling, the example of the customer I used before, they were trying to engage with IT professionals in the hope of selling to them, which of course they now have 9,000 people on their database to market to. I don't know what their conversion rate's like, but even if it's quite small, that's better than a low conversion rate of 200, right? So I think it depends what you're trying to do. If we bring up Simon Sinek's start with the why, like why are you doing this event? Why are you thinking about making it blended or hybrid or online or in person? And I think if the answer is something that you can engage with more people, well, online is obviously an easy way to do that. Obviously.
Sorry, if I could just jump in though. I would also say if you get 9,000 people, if the point of the exercise was to get 9,000 people to your database, and they're on our database now, our database looks amazing, we've got 9,000 extra people. It's not just about that, it's about looking through the people who you're liaising with, and particularly trying to get relationships with some of those people. It's not just about numbers, it's not a numbers game. Sometimes spending 20% of your time on 5 people is more important than spending all of your time on 10,000 people or whatever. So data is so key to it.
Yeah, targeting I think is what you're saying, and yes, agreed. And I think actually what I'm going to name them as Sophos, the cybersecurity expert that I'm talking about. Basically, they've got products for all the people they were talking to, so they had that great opportunity to do that. But yes, agreed. It's not always just a numbers game because it's not tangible to just have lots of. Oh yeah, great. I've got all these people on my database. Great, but how many have you converted? Well, none. Okay, well that's useless. So it's difficult. It's tricky.
But is this? When you're talking about data and data collection and the outreach, is this an evolution of events beyond just becoming, as Uncle Phil would like his exhibition hall filled with stand space and people coming through the door. Is it? We've been doing this, and I think, as he quoted in one of his articles, we've been doing this, which is essentially a marketplace, for 600 years. Is this the point at which there is technology available that's helping it advance? And is it the bottom of the adoption curve for hybrid virtual, that understanding that there's a deeper relationship rather than just getting people into a room?
We are so early into all of this. I keep going back to it, but I mean, here's a question for you. It's a bit of a poll, snap poll. Anybody here use any kind of video conferencing tool before the pandemic? Hardly anyone. But now, everybody uses it nearly every day. Everyone uses it. So we're just starting to. That has become almost like, I would rather have a Zoom call than a telephone call. Isn't that weird? And I guess that's a lot of people, because you know it's on your terms. You know when it is. You know it's not just somebody ringing you when you're not ready. So I think we're adapting to this world now. We're only just at the start. And so I think what happened was we went hybrid. We went online during the pandemic. Then that kind of went away initially because everybody wanted to do in-person events. And now you're finding the adaptation and how we can use it, and how we can, another thing that I learned about was things like, instead of doing redemption things, doing swag stores. There's things that you can do online, swag stores, where you can do a gamification thing and then donate a prize. You go into a swag store and your points convert into a sustainability prize, and things like this. So there's all these kind of things that are, the companies who are pushing the needle are going to grow it for us all, just like anything. Just like, Apple did the iPhone, and everybody's doing the same thing, or the iPad. So I think we're just at the start of this. We're just at the start of this curve. We've kind of been on a bit of a roller coaster, and now we're just starting to work out what works. Always remember, every event is totally bespoke. Totally bespoke. There's no thing like, well, we've always done it hybrid, or we've always done it online, or you should be looking at each event with a blank piece of paper. I know that's quite hard with your clients, because your clients have a view of what they want to do. They'll come to you and say, no, I want an in-person event. But I think it's our duty as event managers, for all the event managers there, to look at what's going on and look at what people are doing, and try and push the needle with them, try and change their opinions, try and show them some evidence of what other people are doing. And that way we'll grow as a business, as an industry. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the curve was a massive spike, wasn't it? When we went into pandemic, everyone had to do it, so everyone did it. Then I think everyone was pleased for it to come down quite quickly. I think what's interesting is the companies that are doing it, that did it well and learnt what was good and what was bad, have sort of leveled the curve, whereas those that maybe didn't fixate on what worked and fixated on, have just gone and got rid of it, and that's where the spike is down. I agree. I think we are very early in this. We're probably only 3 or 4 years into this new shift. I can't tell you how long it took me to get Adam and Paul from ETL to stream from one stage. I think we did the first 4 years, and he wouldn't let me stream it, and he would only put the content online a month after. Slowly but surely, I've eaten away, and we're now filming every stage, and we're streaming 2 of them, plus a studio, so it's great. But I think it is a very slow burn. So that wasn't a plug, sorry, it sounded like one. I think it's a very slow burn. We're early into it. Pick what works well for you. Go back to the Simon Sinek's why are you doing this? Grab onto that. But I love the idea of start with a blank piece of paper every time.
Learn from other people. And the other thing I'd say is one advantage of what's happened is the skill set that we've all had to learn. We've all had to learn these brand new skills of, especially have we got any event freelancers in the audience here? If you're a freelance event manager, you suddenly had to learn how to run behind the scenes online events. So we've all learned these skills as well, and these are skills that you can then take to other aspects of your job as well.
Excellent. One thing I've noticed is, as you might not guess by my youthful countenance, but Glastonbury is not really on my list of things to do. Sleeping in a muddy field with a bunch of teenagers doesn't float my boat these days. But I watch Glastonbury online, That's streamed now. I watch the coverage, the anchors, the presenters, and I've even gone and bought. I've no idea who this musician is. I like their kit. I'll go and buy it. I'll still go and buy a CD, obviously, because that's my threshold in terms of technology and all this Spotify nonsense. But I will go and buy that. So if you're talking about monetising, it may be downstream. But that artist who was on there, because I could watch it online, I've bought their CD. So there is an element of that. It's going to be really hard to measure, and putting metrics to it is probably the next generation of what we do.
But can I say that monetisation of any kind of an event is not just down to pure how much money am I going to get for putting on this event. It's about your brand loyalty. It's about the brand. It's like the stuff it's really hard to measure because it's down the line. We put on live events, and we spend all the money that we make from it on the production of said event. We put everything we can into making it a really good event. We don't think about the bottom line. How much money am I going to make from this? Because it comes back to us down the line. The brand that we're building and the love that you're building for your brand is so super important. It's really difficult to measure, and I appreciate it's difficult to say to your clients, well, I know you've not made any money, but you will do. But that is a cold hard fact that not every event is measured in pure hard dollars. It's in love points, if you like. That sounds weird. Scratch that from the tape. But in how much it's got to you emotionally, the brand has affected you. I'm big on the emotion for the brand, aren't I? This is what I'm all about.
So I'm just getting a nod that we've got one or two questions from the audience. So we've got a quiet mic at the front.
Can we turn the mic up, please?
Hiya. Yeah, we've got some questions coming in. One particularly pertinent to what you were just saying, which is what are good examples of monetization you've seen from clients?
Good question. Obviously, was the question about online events? Online events. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's all about where the brand is that you're using and what the conference is about. I mean, yeah, you can charge for knowledge, if you like, that the panelists who are going to be speaking and what they're going to be delivering. And I don't know. When you do events, Rich? Are you online events? Are there any people doing sponsored parts of it? And there was a time when there was like a trade show online. You could walk around. Yeah. Is this still happening?
That's still happening, absolutely. But I do think, going back to your previous point about the brand awareness, our best events, the best events that we produce are about creating buzz or creating brand awareness. A product launch or a this or a that or an internal event. They're the most exciting ones because there's a clear investment. They don't really care about what comes back out because they know something will come out in the wash. I appreciate that a lot of people in the room may not have the deep pockets to enable that, but that's definitely the best. The best.
But that's where sponsors come in, isn't it?
And
that's where sponsors sponsoring a section and ultimately coming back to that data point that we talked about earlier. If people can get data from an event, you can get email addresses and stuff like that. Sponsors will pay for that. But it's all got to be done in the right way, with the right clients and the right manner. You can't
we've finally come back to the circle, haven't we, of how you monetize that data of capturing all those people, those 9,000 people. Well, you can say to your sponsors, by the way, our last event had 9,000 people watch online. You can get your brand out there. So, yes, it might be downstream about who's going to benefit from that. But if someone's willing to reach an audience that you can provide them for their brand, that's monetizing in a different way.
I'm just going to give you an example. We've got a Christmas party next week, and I'm a great believer in building the buzz about an event from before, during, and after. Too many people, too many event organisers, and me included. When back in the day when I was an event planner, the only contact you would have with your audience who was coming would be registration, a confirmation, and then a pre-departure note, a joining instruction to say, be here at 2 o'clock or whatever that was. What we're doing now with all our big events is we'll create a buzz and create a buzz for the event before, and we're talking like 3 or 4 months before. We'll start like a Facebook group. All the communities are available. We are on Facebook. You can start a closed Facebook group invite everyone into that group, put gamification things in if it's appropriate, lots of kind of snippets and sneak previews of what's coming. You can build that engagement, and these are amazing for any sponsors that you want to work with, because they're suddenly seeing all this engagement, and people are not just talking about it, you know, at the event and afterwards the event. I always say, why wait till the first coffee break before you've even spoke to anyone at your meeting? Because we all do. So you can start before. You can start 2 or 3 months before. Warm anyone up. Honestly, if you see our Christmas party Facebook group, it's like electric. You know, it's so everyone's so. No pressure on me. We've got to deliver a great event, and Rich, we've got to deliver a great event now. But we created this buzz and this fun. So I would say these are ways that you can use you can leverage it for money, for sponsors, because they've got that opportunity to liaise with people before, during, and after.
Yeah, you brought that up earlier, asking for examples of engagement. Someone's actually put that up in the comments. Open Q&A apps in advance of meetings for registrants opens the discussion and interactivity straight away. So that's already coming from the audience.
Gold star for that person.
One
it
love
was anonymous.
One love point.
Reveal yourself. And then from Kerry Adams, tokenomics and reward builds an audience and community well. Engagement doesn't happen without community. So another example there.
100%.
More love points.
And I did have, there's a question which has got 3 votes now, which is, we're currently going through the death by webinar phase, and it isn't looking like we're going back to in-person events. What would you suggest we do to increase engagement and change up what we do on webinars?
Webinars are one of my favourite things, actually, and I don't say that tongue-in-cheek. I mean that, because the thing about webinars is what we've done, what bad webinars have done, is they've taken a presentation and they've put it online. And you just can't do death by PowerPoint. It's bad enough in a room for 20 minutes, let alone when you've got all other distractions. You've got Outlook, you've got iPlayer, you've got Netflix. You can't compete with that. So the webinars that we create are more like a TV show than a webinar, right? So try and limit everything to 4 to 6 minutes, because and there's a reason why Breakfast TV, for any of us that have time to ever watch Breakfast TV, limit it to that much.
Do you mean the whole of the webinar or each section of it?
Sections. So,
right.
So break it up into modules almost of different things. If your speaker can't deliver their presentation in 10 minutes, they're doing it wrong. They just change the way that you are thinking about it. Build in 3 times as much time for engagement and Q&A as you have for presentation.
What about length of time of the whole webinar? It's a good tip to anyone putting them on. How long would you say?
I would say half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour is okay, but it depends what you're doing. If you're doing something, you know, we've done great webinars with Sophos that have gone on for 3 hours. And because they keep changing the format, they keep changing what's happening, and they're responding to their audience, and they're actually asking for, okay, what are we going to talk about next? What are we going to talk about next? So much so that we've dialed in members of their team to answer specific questions and stuff like that. That is how you truly engage in a webinar.
Yeah, I think as well, you know, making sure there's the opportunity to ask lots and lots of questions before, and even to the point of having some emergency questions, just in case we need them, because we all need them from time to time. There's nothing more than the tumbleweed. Any questions, anyone?
Yeah, my favourite little top tip for you: if you use something like Slido, other apps are available, but use something like Slido that can create a word cloud, right? And if you put the stream live 5 minutes before, most people will dial in 2 or 3 minutes before to watch it. Where are you joining us from, right? Simple word cloud. Where are you joining us from? Then if you get your host to say, oh, look, we've got this word cloud of where people are joining. But great, we've got someone from Oxford, we've got someone from London. Oh, we've got someone up in Scotland. Great to see you. That person instantly will be engaged they'll be instantly engaged with your event, because they know that you're listening to them, you're asking them, and then you're listening. Really simple. You know, you can make it event specific, but a little quick word cloud, but make sure you refer to it in the first 2 minutes.
And love points.
And love point.
I find it's hard to stop people telling you where they're from on a live webinar. We've got
What's your name and where you're from?
A slightly tongue-in-cheek question. Would you personally prefer to be here today in person or watch it online?
any opportunity I can get to be next to Rich, I will be here.
I feel like I have to say the same, Neil. But
Always fishing for compliments.
You know, the rose between two thorns is amazing here. Look, we're you know, we're trying to speak to people here as well. You know, we've got an exhibition stand right next door. So yes, in this case, I'm delighted to be here. But I'm always delighted to talk online as well because I can be at home.
I'm a people person. I love being in and around people, and I think the reason that you've all come, because you could have watched this from home, because it's been streamed, I guess.
It's not live actually, but
not live,
it's not this stage.
Well, you'll be watching it at some point. But you want to be here because you want to meet people, and you want to, you know, have those serendipitous moments. I'm just pleased to say that.
I think there's a balance, right? I think there's a good balance to be had between, you know, getting out and speaking to people and not being relentlessly out of the office, and, you know, being able to knuckle down and crack on with. I mean, I spend too much of my time on Teams these days. So yeah, there's a balance to be had, I think, between the in-person and the online, and that we call that blended.
How about you, Paul?
I'm a social animal. I love in-person events. It was always my preference to be at these kind of things, and it always will be. Live is where I enjoy it. But there are certain events that I would look at and say, I can't get to that for whatever reason. However, I can dial into that session or I can participate in that bit. So you get the gratification of being able to do that bit, and you get the value out of it. But no, it's in person.
It depends. It totally, you know what, though, it totally depends on your own circumstance, really. I'm a Liverpool fan, season ticket, by the way. So I'm lucky I can go to every home game, but we've got thousands of fans all over the world, and they can't. So they'll watch a virtual event, if you like, on TV. TV and online event. There you go. It's now, isn't it? Digital. Anyway, but they will watch it there because that's what's appropriate for them. So I don't think there's any right or wrong. It all comes down to starting with that blank piece of paper for each event, trying to think what is appropriate for it, what do we need to cover, because there's all the reasons of like neurodiverse people who might not want to come, or geographical reasons, or tons of travel, cost. There's all these things. So this is a world where there's room for everything, and it just depends on the circumstance of the people and what you're doing.
Yep. Are we?
That's all the question we've got. I have an emergency question.
Excellent.
Which is, for those that are resource limited, you know, they were having a hard enough time doing their physical event, and then they had to switch to virtual, and now they're figuring out what to do. How do they choose which access method to take, you know, online? How do they make that decision with limited resources?
I feel like I need to start with that one without saying ring firstsight.media. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. A good, you know, something like this should really be able to help you with that, right? Because if you go back to if we wind back to the why you're doing this and what you're trying to achieve, if you go back to that with your blank piece of paper, what technology and what mechanisms can you use to invest your time in to deliver that? And there'll be loads of those around here. There'll be loads of those in this building now. So if you have in the back of your mind what you're trying to achieve, you can then look at some of the stands around here and go, oh, that will help me achieve this, and then you know what to invest your time in. So it's, you know, not everyone can grab a production company and help out. They don't have the benefit of Neil knowing important people like me. But you can. There's lots of things around here that can help you. So it's about picking the right things to invest your time in, I guess, for me.
Lots of things you don't know you need as well until you've seen them. So have a good wander around, because there's many things like that here, many.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I think we're about due on time, so we will draw this session to a close. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming and listening to us chat through the value of hybrid. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Rich.
And you've all earned many love points.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.